much, Christy, and thanks very much to Nicholas and Paul from Reed Corporate and Resources Rising Stars for hosting us again this year. So a very exciting story to tell. So I'll just wait for these slides to come up. So our normal forward-looking statements and disclosures, these are available on our website should you wish to read these in full. So I encourage you to do so. So again, thank you everyone for joining us in person today and online. So Chalice Mining, to introduce the company, we're an exploration specialist with a recent globally significant discovery. As most people would know now, our Julimar discovery in 2020 is a new high-grade PGE nickel, copper, cobalt, gold sulfide discovery. It's basically Australia's first major palladium discovery, or indeed really first major PGE discovery. It's emerging as a world-class strategic deposit of the critical green metals, a number of those green metals that are really needed to address climate change, and better yet, the deposit is located in a world-class jurisdiction, obviously in Western Australia. So having nickel, copper, cobalt in our deposit means that we're very leveraged to the battery and electric vehicle adoption curve, but having PGEs and nickel as well places us in a very good standing for green hydrogen adoption. And I'll talk a bit about that in a minute. We're also planning to demerge and IPO our gold projects. Our spin-off called Falcon Metals will hold 5,000 square kilometres in the Bendigo zone of Victoria. Most people would know the Bendigo zone of Victoria, a very historic province, host of the world's highest grade underground gold mine, the Fosterville gold mine. That demerger is planned in the fourth quarter of this year, so it's looking like towards Christmas. And please come by the booth if you'd like some more information on that. That we do have a flyer to introduce Falcon to new investors. Chalice is a well-funded group. We're a high-performing team with an exceptional track record, as Christy said there, 4,000% total return to shareholders in the space of about 18 months, and we're very well financed with about $116 million in cash and cash equivalents. So our discovery, Julimar, is a green metals discovery. So what does that mean? These four metals here are currently doing some of the heaviest lifting in terms of decarbonising the economy. Particular palladium today. Palladium is doing a lot of the heavy lifting in that fight, stripping basically nitrous oxide fumes out of exhaust streams. Nitrous oxides are 300 times more potent than CO2 as a greenhouse gas. So you can imagine that every single tailpipe, if you own a petrol vehicle or a petrol hybrid vehicle, you have palladium in your vehicle, which is, as I said, addressing climate change. Nickel and copper, obviously incredibly important for batteries, electric vehicles. Platinum, obviously a bit of a new metal for Australian audiences. Very important metal for hydrogen applications, along with palladium. In terms of the palladium price, because it's such a relatively new metal for the Australian market, there's some information here on the price history of the metal. Most people would be aware it did hit a record high of almost $3,000 an ounce earlier this year. It's a very versatile metal, but you can tell by that price performance, it's very rare. So these discoveries do not come around very often. The demand for the metal is dominated by catalytic converters in those petrol engines today. But as we get more and more tighter emissions standards around the world, and we've seen that every 5 years, roughly over the last 30 years, the world has tightened its emissions standards, particularly on those nitrous oxide emissions. That has meant more and more palladium required to strip out those emissions. But it has widespread applications, this metal, in green hydrogen, which is probably the most exciting aspect for this metal, particularly in proton exchange membrane electrolyzers, actually producing hydrogen, but also stripping the nitrous oxides out of hydrogen and ammonia streams, so purifying those streams, but also in the fuel cell market. So, as you no doubt are hearing, fuel cells are on the radar as I guess the next step beyond the battery electric vehicle. So it's a strong focus for that metal. In terms of who Chalice are, you can see on the page they're a very familiar name to and a Hall of Fame member in the Resources Rising Stars. Tim Goyder is a chair and founder of Chalice and major shareholder, holding 11% of the company. As Christy said, a 4,000% return to shareholders has taken the company from a market capitalisation of $50 million 2 years ago to roughly $2.2 billion today. And a strong balance sheet, a strong board of directors and management team, and then you can see on the bottom right-hand side a growing list of research coverage as well. So talking to our discovery itself. So on the left-hand side you can see a map. Our discovery is even more remarkable because it's just outside of Perth here, about an hour and a half from where we are at the moment. We entered this area on a concept only, and this is a pure greenfield discovery that was made by Chalice. The discovery itself is called Gonville, but really the discovery is much more than the Gonville deposit. It's a new mineral province. So we've found a very, very exciting part of the world here for nickel sulfides. The Julimar complex is about 26 kilometres long, although there are many companies around us now with emerging evidence of sulfide mineralisation much more broader than just the Julimar complex. So we've got a very favourable location here from a mining perspective. You know, major infrastructure, obviously very close to the property, and now we're scaling out our exploration activities on what is a completely really unexplored part of the world, looking for other discoveries of this type. So our discovery called Gonville is at the southern end of the Julimar complex, down the bottom left-hand side of that page. So the Gonville deposit there, as you can see, 625 drill holes we've completed over the past 18 months, over about a 2 kilometre by 1 kilometre area, and we've drilled the deposit down to at least 800 metres, and it still remains open beyond 800 metres, so you can get a sense of the scale that we're talking about here with this deposit. We've got 13 shallow high-grade zones of sulfide mineralisation. 11 of those still remain open, so we're going to be drilling for many years to come here on this property. As Christy said as well, our maiden resource estimate is due in about a month's time, so mid this quarter, and obviously a very important catalyst for the company. But more importantly, I think, is really Gonville is just scratching the surface on this project. So as you look there to the north, the geophysical anomaly, the geochemistry is pointing to a significant extension potential of this same geology going north. That Hartog target there, which is currently untested, 6.5 kilometre long, very similar geophysical and geochemical response there to what we saw at Gonville, and we're targeting to drill that within weeks. So obviously another major catalyst for the company coming up. And then further to north, Baudin, Jans, and even further north, Torres, similar looking targets that are yet to see a drill hole. So you can get a sense here that this is going to be many years of exploration and hopefully many years of discovery ahead. So Gonville itself, this is a summary of some recent results and obviously the geology. It's a world-class strategic deposit. It's an asset of exceptional scale, immense scale that you just do not see very often in terms of greenfield discoveries, particularly in Australia. So it's, as I said, open to the north into that state forest area at the top of the page there, and obviously open at depth, as well as those 13 shallow high-grade zones. We have basically a halo of sulfide mineralisation surrounding high-grade. So essentially everything within that intrusive geology is effectively mineralised with some sort of sulfide content. As well as that, on top of the fresh rock, there is about a 25 metre thick oxide zone that's enriched in PGEs and gold. So that's 625 drill holes. Not many of those have missed. I'm talking sort of less than 15 holes have actually missed mineralisation. So there's a lot of mineralisation in those 625 holes. That corresponds to about 160,000 metres of drilling we've done. And as I said, only weeks away now from our maiden resource. Looking at those 13 high-grade zones, this figure is looking down the dip of mineralisation towards the northwest. You can see that that's from one end to the other there is about 2 kilometres of strike length, and you can see the Julimar State Forest boundary there on the top right-hand side. And what you notice there as well is that the zone G12 there is wide open into the state forest. So we already anticipate that there is a substantial growth of this deposit to the north. We're getting some very good results there, as we go north, showing that the growth potential here of this discovery is quite exceptional. And obviously the southern end there, it's worth noting that basically the southern end of this deposit is basically sticking out of the ground. So you can appreciate this is very much amenable to open pit mining methods. Looking at it now towards the east, so this is looking at a pseudo long section of the deposit. We're currently drilling in that 1,000-metre gap at the bottom left-hand side of the page. So we've drilled the southern end of the deposit now to about 600 metres below surface, but then as you can see that really the drill holes haven't yet filled in that gap. So that's where we're currently drilling on wide spacing, and we're anticipating that those red and orange high-grade wireframes there will extend, and the mineralisation will extend further towards the bottom left-hand side of that page. And so you can see there, obviously, the state forest boundary. Beyond that, there is still a huge amount of growth potential to this deposit. Looking at that now, zooming back, Gonville, which I've just shown you there, our deposit is just on the bottom part of those two maps. So on the left-hand side, you're looking at a gravity image. You can see the outline of Gonville there, which I've just been showing you. And on the right-hand side, an airborne EM and GIF and a geochemical map. So what you'll notice there is that 26 kilometres of strike length has a number of gravity features which are prospective and indicating to us mafic, ultramafic geology, just like what we've drilled down at Gonville. And on the right-hand side, we've got a number of EM targets as well as geochemistry, demonstrating to us that there is potential here for multiple discoveries in that forest area to the north. So we're also planning to drill, as well as drilling in that forest area in the next few weeks, we're planning to drill on farmland as well, up at that Jans and Torres target this quarter as well. So we'll be drilling right at the northern end of the complex as well. In terms of how do we extract these metals from the ground, we are at an early stage, but we have demonstrated already that the high-grade sulfide mineralisation in fresh rock here is very amenable to sequential flotation processing, so a relatively simple flow sheet to achieve those recoveries, or the range of recoveries on the right-hand side of the page there. Importantly, there is very low levels of deleterious elements in our two separate commercially attractive concentrates. So we are anticipating that the operation here will start as an export of those two intermediate products, although there is still a lot of metallurgical work to do. Down the bottom, out the lower grade material, that disseminated sulfide material, which you can appreciate there is lots and lots of that material. We are currently working now with the Commonwealth Government to investigate how we best process that material. But again, it looks like we can still produce at least one separate copper PGE gold concentrate, and then the remaining material does float and does concentrate with flotation. So we are well advanced now on our scoping study, so we're pushing this project towards mining as rapidly as possible. We're looking at the first half of next year for publishing of that scoping study. So a timeline for the remainder of this year, our initial drilling at that Hartog target, as I said, only weeks away. Now we've got 2 rigs initially lined up, but we've got 4 rigs in total that can drill in that state forest area. And you can see there as well the other activities ongoing on Gonville on the farmland ahead of that maiden resource in the middle of this quarter. The Julimar project itself is an important project for the region. It has the potential to deliver significant jobs, skills and economic diversification to what is a predominantly agricultural region. We've taken our environmental responsibilities very seriously. We've done very thorough baseline flora, fauna and dieback surveys through that state forest area. We're doing everything that you would anticipate us to have done ahead of going for a proposal vessel to conduct mining in that area. At this stage, though, we are focused on just getting the initial drilling done. So really, that's the techniques that we're using in that forest are low impact techniques. We're not clearing any vegetation whatsoever to do this first round of drilling, and we will be drilling on about 70 sites on that Hartog target, and we can drill around about 12 holes per site in that program. So we can get a lot of drilling done without ever actually clearing any vegetation. And I think importantly as well here, this project is unique in that we don't need a FIFO workforce. This project is just up the road. It has a very beneficial, a potential to add a lot of benefit to those local communities, and we're already engaging very strongly and getting great responses back from those local communities. Now, this is probably the most important slide in the deck, though, and really for those geological-minded in the audience, this is where you want to pay attention. The Julimar complex, what we've found here is on the western side of Western Australia, and this western side of Western Australia is almost totally unexplored, which is quite remarkable given how well explored the other parts of Western Australia are, like the Goldfields and the Pilbara. Some of the world's largest nickel copper PGE ore bodies lie right along the western edge of Archean age geology. So that's where we've staked 8,000 square kilometres, and importantly, we were the first ones to really get access to go and stake that 8,000 square kilometres. So we're sitting on a decade of future exploration and discovery here in this new province called the West Yilgarn Nickel Copper PGE province. We're scaling out all the initial exploration activities that led to the Julimar discovery. We're doing exactly the same work now on about 4 different fronts over that about 1,200 kilometres of craton boundary there over our 8,000 square kilometre holding. So there is a huge amount of work to do, but we're already getting encouraging signs that there is more to be found, and particularly given the strength of the nickel, copper and PGE outlook, this is obviously an exciting part of the world to watch in the years ahead. So in summarising, our discovery at Julimar is world-class. It's already a strategic asset for Australia. It's really the PGE discovery that Australia never had, and we've sort of corrected that for the industry here. That exploration upside and we are still an explorer. We are still looking and driven to find more discoveries in that new package. And we're well funded to do that. And if you're going to back a team to do that, back a team that's already demonstrated that they can make world-class discoveries. So that's Chalice Mining, and I encourage you to come say hi at the booth later on. And thank you very much.
Thanks, Alex.